Love you guys.
So I was talking earlier about, I had the teenage parents, and it sounds like a disease. I got the teenage parents. Well, I went to see the doctor, and he gave me some penicillin, so I'm not going to, it wasn't quite like that. But I also had the grandmother and the great uncle who were so amazing, and my grandmother, she was just beautiful woman, beautiful, and she looked like Lana Turner, who was also her favorite movie star. So I think she really liked that she looked like Lana, but she really did, and she was just bodacious. The word bodacious would come to mind with her, and she was also a very bigger than life personality. She was awesome and funny and cool. This is how cool she is. She took me to see AC/DC when I was 13 years old with UFO opening, no less, in Charleston, West Virginia, which is where my granddaddy was working at the time. And he couldn't find really the kind of work that he did where we lived, and she didn't want to leave me because she thought I might need her to be raised. And so they spent a lot of time apart, so we road tripped up to Charleston to spend Thanksgiving with him the year I was in 8th grade, and I was 13 years old. And while I was there, I looked in the paper, and there was a concert coming to town. AC/DC, UFO, and the Motors for $3. Yes. Thanksgiving weekend, 1977. And my grandmother took me to the concert, sat in the parking lot with a flashlight and a book, and read a book while I had my 13-year-old brains rocked out. That's my grandmother. And she lived in a mid-century modern in Norwood Park, which was like the first subdivision they built after World War II in North Florence, Alabama, where I grew up. And it's a cool house with weeping willow trees in the backyard, and I used to pretend that it was Disney World back there, and I would ride the monorail all around the castle. That was the weeping willow trees for the castle. And then across the street was this little red brick house, and this old lady lived there by herself. She'd never married, never had kids, and her name was Ann Coldiron, and she was my godmother. And and she came from some old money, what they used to call old money, and she also came from some mental illness, and she spent some time in the 60s in and out of some mental hospitals back in those really brutal one flew over the cuckoo's nest days. She had shock treatment more than once, and in the course of all of that, her brother got power of attorney over her part of the estate, so he put her on a really tight allowance. And every time she would ask for more money, he would remind her of her mental problems. So I learned about gaslighting at a really young age, which has really come in handy in 2025, by the way. But I digress. And but every 2 years he would let her buy a brand new Oldsmobile, and she'd buy the biggest fucking Oldsmobile on the lot. She didn't have a driver's license, but my grandmother did. So my grandmother drove her around in her Oldsmobile and took her to the grocery store and to pay the phone bill, back when you had to do that in person, and the doctor's appointments, whatever she needed, my grandmother would take her around. So I spent a lot of my childhood in the back of Ann Coldiron's Oldsmobile. Parked on the street, 10 miles to the gallon in red velvet seats. Says he's gonna drive us anywhere and wants. She will run her errands and wash her clothes. She have to wait. She says her air conditioner's poisoning the skies. Birds keep dropping dead in her yard. And Cold Iron never married, and she lives alone with emphysema and Shirley Temple dolls. Shirley Temple dolls from a childhood long ago, still kept in their boxes in the closet. In their closet. Sometimes an ambulance pulls in the drive, men in white gloves at the door while she hid inside. Cowering in the closet, she'd leave bound and tied. Shock treatments to make the dead birds subside. Her brother's at the country club every night till 8. Black men in tuxedos pour his bourbon straight. He gets her inheritance and paperwork that states he's the sole executor of the estate. The Cold Iron Estate. The Cold Iron Estate. When she asked for money, he'd remind her of the times the fumes would make the birds fall from the skies. Fall from the skies, and the madness that implies lithium and tranquilizers. Lithium and tranquilizers. Tranquilizers. Cold Iron's Oldsmobile's a Delta 88, so large it had a playground in the backseat. She couldn't drive, but Sissy took her everywhere. Ann and I would wait out in the parking lot. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.